John and Roland. We have here Louisa.
Hi.
She's just done a colonoscopy. In a minute, you will see the video of that colonoscopy. But maybe she can tell you a little bit in the meantime about how it's been going.
Yeah, it was for a lady 49 years old.
Yeah.
She has repeatedly pain in the right abdomen, and on a CT scan there was a possibility of ileocecal invagination.
Yeah.
Vagination. She had a colonoscopy a year and a half ago, where they noticed already a fixed sigmoid because of status after hysterectomy. And yeah, they wanted to repeat the colonoscopy because of the invagination. It was under propofol sedation, yeah, so narcosis. She was completely...
All right, so we asked Louisa to identify at least 3 moments in this where she thought that she had trouble. The format is, John and Roland, that we are asking you as experts in colonoscopy and training, or she's going to ask you what your advice would have been in these situations, and did she do the right thing, or did you have some other advice? So okay. What's your first time?
Yeah, that's RVC, and that's the other.
So RVC on, yeah, 280.
Around two minutes.
So why don't you tell us what was happening?
So we were in the sigmoid, and I noticed when I was pushing forward, I had resistance. So I tried to use water. I tried to be really slowly, and actually it was, I think, less difficult than I thought in the beginning, because when I was thinking about using water, going slowly, using a little bit of small wheel also, I was thinking about turning the patient, but it was not necessary at that time. So.
So what difficulty did you have?
Okay, so the end result was perfect. I think at that point in time, the reason you put a 2-minute stamp on is because as you were pushing in, there was probably increasing resistance and you weren't really making progress. Yeah. And that was prompting you to do something else. My advice at your level, Louisa, would be to say you need to recognize that a little bit earlier. There's nothing wrong with what you did, but I suspect if at this point in time, you either use water because the patient is left lateral, that would be optimal there. And then secondly, start to pleat the colon. So start to use, as you describe, your little wheel and try and angulate the tip and keep pulling back, and you will pleat the colon. The other thing to say is when you did eventually get through it, there was a little bit of muck in the colon, but I would have completely aspirated all of the air and replaced it with water. And I think in a proactive sense, you would have not had a problem at all. And I just think you're going in, it's going relatively smoothly, and I think intrinsically the trainees just want to keep pushing on.
We've got another one now, I think.
Yeah. The next one was around the splenic fracture. It's difficult for me to repeat everything, but I know it was difficult and I was struggling, and then I put on my stiffener, but again, it was not really working, or only half part of it. And then I thought, okay, I come back. And then I said, I'll start again for the video. But then I was suddenly in the, around the hepatic, and then it went quite smoothly. So.
But what did you do differently when you thought
I think when I pulled back, probably I just straightened my scope without really knowing afterwards.
Yeah, you just, if you look at your video, it's beautiful.
And then you had another one.
There was a polyp in the sigmoid, and it was not a really stable position, and it was on 12 o'clock.
I'm on this one. Is this nothing?
This one, like
okay,
17, 18 or.
Yeah.
So there was a polyp in the sigmoid, and I was trying to put it at 6 o'clock. Because it was behind the fold, and then I was struggling. I couldn't find it again, and I tried to put it on 6 o'clock, but it was again on 12 o'clock. So I turned the patient, and then it's around 23 minutes, because I was just searching the polyp.
Are you searching the polyp again?
Yeah, there were 23. So then I turned the patient, looked for the polyp again.
You've already done a polyp though.
Yes, sorry. 23 is already done?
23.
But it's probably a little bit before 23 then. And then I asked the nurse also to help me a little bit. Yeah, that's from biopsies. I took some biopsies. So the nurse also held the scope for me to have a stable position to do the polypectomy.
Okay, so
there it is the polyp.
So Louisa, so if you're faced with this, so just pause the video, David.
But that is like John, I'm about to say it too. John's got this in his head. I've got it in my head. You see exactly, you can just see from that image. Exactly. That's why he's asked me to put why it's going to be difficult. I mean, it's hard to get a good image of it. I'm trying my best.
And that's the first, that's when I had an unstable position. I don't think I did the polypectomy here.
Why did you have an unstable position here?
I turned the patient then. And then
sorry, John, I interrupted you.
No. You're absolutely right. We're thinking, our heads are thinking in the same place, in the same thing.
We just see it here. It's not, yeah, okay.
So Louisa, you can anticipate this is going to be difficult. For what reasons?
It's in the sigmoid. It's on a fold.
Yeah, and what's beyond the fold?
Air.
Air, nothing. So if you put, so you to modify your, there's two things. Firstly, if you are struggling to locate the polyp and every time you move the scope, you keep failing to find the polyp, the easiest thing is to put some injectate somewhere in the mucosa. It doesn't have to be under the polyp. It's ideal if you can, but if it's not, you will have a reference point to where the polyp is. So when you then move the patient or rotate the scope, even if you can't find the polyp again, you can see where the injectate is, and therefore you can then relocate the polyp. That's the first thing to say. And it doesn't have to be under the polyp.
It's always too late when I think about that.
But that is a great tip, isn't it? Because there's many times when you think you wish that you did that and you didn't. So indeed.
True.
And the second thing here is you're going to have to maneuver the mucosa, which the polyp is sitting on, and drag this mucosa towards you to enable you to put downward pressure on the snare. Otherwise, you're just going to pull the snare away. So exactly as you're doing there, you get the snare behind the polyp. And at this point in time, yeah, I would have got a little bit closer and dragged at this freeze there. I would have pulled the polyp towards you by bringing the snare back into the channel at this point in time. And what you're not doing that, you're pushing it away. And it just makes it a little bit more difficult to capture it.
There's loads of things in that, John. There's also the fact that it's not really at 6, it's maybe more at 5. The margins are included in the polypectomy, probably certainly this one.
Well, I added some more.
Oh, did you?
Okay,
maybe the question point John's maybe making is, did you need to, or could you have indeed just change your position a little bit? Injection, definitely. I mean, I agree with that. Probably would have helped here because maybe it would have brought it up, maybe it would have brought it towards you. So let's see what then happened. So, okay, nice piece of tissue. Cuts through easily, or?
Well, relatively, after a few seconds.
So just make one other observation here for you. You don't have to tent quite as high as you have, okay? So we talk about,
you don't have to push the snare right up and like pull, you know, you're there when you're doing it, the snare's right up.
When I'm closing it.
No, when you're here, look, when you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like you see how much pressure there was on the snare because it pings off into the future, that's into the air. That's what he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there's too much upper lift. You run the risk of dropping some of the tissue at the bottom of the snare.
Okay, let's see what we ended up with here.
Yeah, I added some more.
Did another resection.
Yeah, but it's probably a few minutes after because I was.
And so, but what you've done, what you've inspected, so that's really important. Let's have a look and see.
I mean, that looks good, David. There's nothing wrong with any of this. It just requires a little bit of fine tuning. That's all.
But maybe it's also fair to say, John, that it's all right in this situation when it's easy, but when it's more difficult and when you're doing bigger things, and like certainly you're at the level where you can take on more than this, then you have to have, the technique, the things that John is saying are becoming important. And one other piece later.
But it's very good. I mean, these are minor things, but they will make, as David says, and I think he's absolutely spot on here, when it gets really difficult, the minor adjustments will make all the difference between success and failure.
That's true.